Welcome to the 1 Year On series. Now, this is a series of videos that I put together to chart my own personal healing journey from domestic and narcissistic abuse. I wanted to find a way to chart my experience, but at the same time, everything was just too raw as it was happening, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, and I didn't know what was and wasn't working back then, so it would have been really difficult for me to share. I felt really vulnerable and I had absolutely zero confidence. I felt like I'd lost everything to the relationship with Mr. C, and most of all, I felt like I'd lost my identity. Yet, as the first anniversary of my escape was approaching, I found myself looking back and being so proud of how far I'd come, how much I'd grown and how strong I now was, and how much my experience of abuse had gone to shape a life for me that was now rooted in positivity. I wanted to share this transformation with others so that they could learn from my experiences and maybe use my experiences of healing to inform their own journey and try things that they might not have known about or heard about before. So in each video, I look back at this day 1 year ago. I use photographs and emails, text messages, receipts, bank records, journal entries, anything that I can think of to prompt me to reflect on what I was doing, what I was learning, and what I can now share now that I'm 1 year older than that day. I am really proud to say that there's quite a healthy sized back catalogue of episodes, so if you've run out of box sets to binge on or you'd like to catch up on my journey so far, do have a look back through my IGTV or my YouTube channel. There's also a Facebook group where I upload each video and then share more of my thoughts and my resources and my experiences with this wonderfully supportive community that has formed, and you are more than welcome to join us in. So, what happened 1 year ago today? Well, for me, this is an exciting one, but as with most things relating to domestic and narcissistic abusers, that means it was laced with a certain amount of negativity. The dichotomy of good and evil is never more pronounced than in this kind of dynamic, and for those of you who've been following the series so far will remember, a few weeks ago I'd been permitted to collect my belongings. After over 2 months of waiting for Mr. C's permission, and he hadn't actually included everything that was mine, nor had he explained why, but I'd just accepted it, and I'd been no contact ever since that day I'd left with my stuff. Now, there had been quite a few attempts to hoover, and I just ignored them all. I really decided to focus on my healing and made breaking the trauma bond my priority. It had been formed over years of abusive and controlling behaviour, and I developed an approach to breaking the trauma bond which was working. I felt stronger, I felt more confident, and I felt more empowered every single day. I was starting to see the trauma bond for what it was, and what I once thought of as feeling deeply in love was in fact an energetic battle with this bond, and it wasn't going to beat me. Now, for anyone who's familiar with the hoovering narcissist, you will know that no gesture is too obscure and no attempt to attract your attention is too grand. And Mr. C's attempts didn't fail to disappoint in that sense. I don't know if you remember the parrot. If you don't know about the parrot, do go back and look for that episode. But since that particularly obscure attempt, there'd been more run-of-the-mill, so to speak. There were cries of helplessness when it came to paying the bills that I'd managed for years, and then there was text messages that were crafted to look like they'd been sent to all. But on this day a year ago, a message came in that I had to take note of. It said, "I'm going out tomorrow. Come and get your caravan if you want it." And oh my goodness, did I want it? I'd bought this caravan with the money gifted to me from my grandparents for my 30th birthday. And I love to upcycle, I love to paint, I love to upholster, I love to transform, and I love to roam and travel. I am an adventurer at my very core, and I'd not had a chance to express that side of me for a long time. As I'd connected more and more with my identity after leaving, I tried to arrange the collection of the caravan when we were discussing all the other kind of transfer of mine and my daughter's things. And he had told me that there was no chance, that I had walked away from him, our home, and most certainly my caravan. He said he was going to renovate it, and that was the end of that. Now, I hadn't argued because that was what he wanted, so I had just accepted that I needed to say goodbye to that caravan, and one day when the time was right, maybe another one would be destined for mine and my daughter's lives. And yet here I was now, a month of no contact and an offer to get my beloved caravan. Do you know, in those few weeks after I left, I actually sat one day and I sketched out my plans for it. I, really went to town with what I envisioned my caravan to look like. And I just had this urge to transform it, to pour my energy into modernising and updating it, and as a way to do something that I knew was, something that was mine, that I was in control of. But I'd accepted that it wasn't to be, and I'd hidden those plans away in the wardrobe. So when the text message arrived, I just didn't know what to do. At first I thought, ignore it, it's a trap. So I put my phone down and I spoke to my parents and my sister, and they knew how much I wanted my caravan back. But they also knew that we didn't have anywhere to store it. So we kind of decided that if we could find somewhere for it to go and we could arrange for someone else to collect it, then there wouldn't actually be any need for me to be involved in the collection in any way. Basically, we decided to leave it up to the universe, and if it was meant to be, I would confirm that it would be collected, just a very straightforward text message to confirm it, and then it would be collected and there'd be no further contact. Well, as chance would have it, that afternoon my sister's friend was walking past the house with her dog, and she stopped for a socially distanced chat on the front lawn, and I was telling her about the caravan and my stuff, and she said that she could move it. She tows horse boxes all the time, and she also said that she was sure her dad would have somewhere to store it on his farm and just to leave it with her. I know, I couldn't make it up. This was happening, and you know what, an hour later it was all sorted. Our family friend and her boyfriend were going to collect the caravan the next morning, and they were going to transport it to its new home on a farm not far from where my parents' house is, where it would be stored inside a barn. There was even electric available, so the renovation could take place right there. So I texted him and I confirmed that it would be collected. A very simple, the caravan will be collected at 10:30 a.m. on the 1st of July 2020. And then it was collected. They got it from where it was stored at the back of his property, and he wasn't there. And I then met them on the farm where it was parked up inside the barn. Part of me was expecting it to be damaged, but when I went inside, it wasn't. It was all still in its 1970s glory, and I'll share some pictures of what the caravan looked like when we collected it right at the end of this video. There was one thing that the caravan wasn't though, and that was empty. As I opened the door and entered the caravan, there was an envelope that had obviously fallen onto the floor during the transit, and it was addressed to me at the property that they'd just come from. And it was a really thick envelope, and inside there was a wad of papers. Now the envelope had been opened, and so I pulled out the contents, and there was a letter from the court, and the paperwork was a summons. I'd just been served with a county court judgment that was addressed to me, but in the name of our business, and to the tune of £1,500. Now this was a business that I'd built, that I'd walked away from, and I'd left him to profit from, and I'd severed all ties off from the business. Mr. C had used the caravan to serve me with these papers, and since they were in my name, we both knew that they were my problem. I knew the caravan was a trap to get me to reply to him, but I had no idea that it was this kind of trap, and now I had a whole new set of problems to deal with. I was in utter shock, and I kept rereading and reading the paperwork, and it was for some advertising that I was under the impression we'd paid for. So at first I thought that it must be a mistake and that I would ring and explain that they'd got the wrong account. But then I remembered. This was one of the payments that came straight from his account, and one that he had said that he would do. I thought it was strange at the time when we'd arranged it, but he told me he wanted to take on more of the clerical work so that I could have a break. Now, that didn't stop him from accusing me of not doing enough or raging at me for being incompetent, but it was all part of that chaos he created to keep me in a state of confusion and panic. And the financial abuse in our relationship was so deep-rooted and complex. Being in business together meant that he had complete control over everything when it came to money, but didn't actually do anything when it came to money. It completely destroyed my relationship with money, and after my husband had left me with £40,000 worth of debt and an IVA, which isn't dissimilar to bankruptcy, I was now stuck at my parents' with no credit rating to acquire my own property. I was pregnant, I was jobless, and I was penniless, and now I had another demand to pay something that I just couldn't afford. The stress was unbelievable, and all the work that I'd done to heal since leaving felt just futile. I was fed up of my life being such a mess. No matter what I did, it was like I just attracted problem after problem, and I felt very sorry for myself at that time. I knew I'd done the right thing by leaving him, and I suppose I knew deep down that I could get through this like I'd got through everything else. But he had really tainted the caravan for me, and I was so angry at him for doing this. But of course, that is exactly what he wanted. Thank you so much for watching this episode of 1 Year On, and if you would like to be notified of any more episodes, then do subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit that notification bell. If anyone's got any questions or wants to share or just get in touch with me, know that my inbox is always open, and I'm sending you lots of love, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye bye.